everybody. So I'm just carrying on from where I left off with the series of what I've got is 16 paintings. Hopefully that will be completed at the end of this video, or not this video, but this process. So I'm just went ahead a little bit since I last saw you. I think I was just basically activating the surface. This is wood that I'm working on, and I just, had some fun. Used some black marker, Posca pen, and some beautiful alizarin nickel azo gold, which is one of my favorite colors, very warm. And then to that, it just seemed a natural transition to go into some blue, this blue turquoise, because blue and orange are complementary, and it just, this turquoise is one of my favorite colors. So I am using only 4 colors and black and white. Phthalo turquoise, Indian yellow and yellow ochre, and cadmium red light. And from those colors you can make, black and white. You can make just a ton of colors. So what I'm learning is that if you limit yourself, you can go deeper with what you've got, rather than just being out there everywhere and trying everything. So today, what I've done is I've just added some color in here, and this is just a work in progress. So I'm working on 16 panels simultaneously, but one after the other, to build up a series of work. And by doing that, if you're using the same palette, you're just doing a little bit on each one as you go along, you can sort of bring them all up at the same time. And sometimes you'll have like a breakaway painting where you think, wow, that one's really good. Well, that's the one just to put aside until you feel like you've caught up to that one with the others. So it's just a process of trying different things and seeing what works. And also just looking at what, really look at what you like about what's on there in the moment. So for this one, actually there's a lot I like about this one. But there's a few things, like one of my favorite things is to scrape into the paint and to leave a line. Love that. And a lot of this is possibly gonna get covered over, but it just keeps me going in a process of call and response. I like these drips. I like how the paint almost looks like watercolor. It's very thin, and so on the white surface with the gesso, it just really brings the color to life. It's almost like the light is coming through it. So I'm definitely going to work, and my process involves always keeping in mind contrast, light and dark especially, because that's really just going to keep your eye moving around the painting. And so just being cognizant of, do I have dark here? Do I have dark here? Sort of working in the 4 quadrants, just to keep the viewer's eye moving around the painting. And of course that always is most pronounced when it's beside its complete opposite, which is white, black and white. So I'm just going to start on this. At this point, I just want to bring in, sometimes I actually don't really know what I'm going to do until I just actually start doing it. So forgive me if I just have to think a moment. So I might mix some of these paints together to get some, less saturated colors, because mostly what I have on here are saturated colors, and what's the opposite of saturated? Unsaturated. So if we mix a couple of these colors together, it'll keep the harmony going, but it will it'll create contrast, and that's a contrast just in saturated versus unsaturated. That's just one. So really this board is still feeling quite thin. I like to get more paint on here, so sometimes it's just a matter of like literally pouring the paint on and moving it around and then scraping areas that I want to keep coming through, or sanding, depending on what happens. Okay, so what I've got here is I think I've showed you this before, it's just a cafeteria tray, I guess, or dinner tray, plastic from the dollar store, and some blue Scott towels folded about 3 layers with some parchment paper, or you can use tracing paper as well. So the water's not like literally just coming right through the paper, but it is damp. So it keeps your palette damp, and because as you know, acrylic paint does dry fairly quickly. So so I'm just going to sort of wing it here because like I always do. By the way, it is really starting to get cool here in Victoria. This is the first time I felt where I had to actually wear a jacket. So I hope I don't get paint on my jacket, but it was just too cold not to have any sleeves. So here I've got some yellow ochre, because I'm looking at this and I'm going, well, you know, I don't have any, you know, I've got these bits of, most of these, what I would consider to be yellow in the yellow family are not from yellow. They're from this nickel azo gold, but it's been diluted. So I'm thinking that'll kind of, you know, work in with this. So I'm just going to squirt out some beautiful saturated yellow ochre, and I just love this color. But also I love this color, and I like these two colors together. This is Indian yellow, and you see how I've put this paint in these squirt bottles because I use them all the time. Usually I just have all these colors on my palette, because sometimes if you want the colors to harmonize, you have to take just a little bit of, you know, maybe mix these yellows together, and then you might need a little bit of this turquoise to give it a more of a greeny hue, if that's what you're going for. Or in the case of the red, it'll turn it more orangey. So let's just start and see what happens. Just gonna grab a, actually I'm not gonna use a brush, because I feel like a brush is like a little bit too delicate, and I just really want to get the paint on there, and I'm basically gonna move it around. Probably gonna need some white. So I look at it and I see like how much white space do I have and how much dark space do I have. Could I use some more white? Could I? And it depends on what you want in the moment. Like you might want a dark painting with light shapes, or vice versa. So it just depends on what you're after. I know there's quite a bit of white in here, but I'm thinking I just want the white to bring these colors to a lighter hue. So, but we'll see what happens. I say that, but everything changes once you start. Okay, so I've got a small paintbrush, and that's really just to, mix the paint together. So I really want to focus on this yellow ochre, so I'm really gonna take a big gob of that, and then just work my way with the yellow, or the other yellow, the Indian yellow. And these two colors, because they're both warm colors, they make a really nice, beautiful, like it really brings this yellow ochre to life. And I'm loving that. And sometimes, you know, maybe I just take a little bit of this and take a tad of this turquoise and just try that to see how that goes. And you just keep adding. By the way, black and yellow ochre make a beautiful green. It's one of my favorite colors, actually. So you see, now this is a little bit, so it's good to have some choices here once you get working, because you just don't want to have one thing and then you got to stop and keep mixing and excuse me. And I'm also curious to see, well, I know what it looks like because I've done it millions of times. This cad red with this Indian yellow, it just brings it to life like fire. But I also want to take some of this mixed up yellow ochre just to bring that in a little bit. So what I've learned, or what I'm learning, is that colors look better when they're not saturated, and really bring harmony to the painting. Yeah, I like that a bit better. Okay, so I'm liking that. Of course, red is a very dominant color. It's value-wise, it's quite dark. Color-wise, it's quite bold. So you don't want too much unless that is your intention to have that. Okay, I'm gonna, now I haven't brought this white in, I'm gonna have to get another brush here. That's the trouble. If you start using one brush, then everything starts just melting in together and then it's a big mess. Okay, so I'm gonna bring some white. Let's just see what the white looks just with the yellow ochre. Oh yeah, and the other thing too is when you're mixing white with anything, especially a darker value color, man, it takes a lot of white and very little of the other color. So that nice creamy color, so these two yellows with white give that really beautiful creamy color. So that could be, you know, something. I'm not crazy about it, but I'm gonna add a bit more turquoise to this just to give it a darker and a little bluer, different green. Yeah, I like that better. So this is just a matter of just playing and just practice to see what you like. Now, I have this other tool as well, which actually works really well with liquid ink, acrylic inks. And now I'm gonna try it with paint. And I've never done it before. So, but I'm trying to, this is much too early to start making this into a painting to be too dear about it. So I'm just gonna put it in here. It certainly works differently than a brush. And then I've got it pretty loaded as much as I stay on there. And I'm just gonna try like, and this is a contrast too, using different tools. So I'm just kind of like eyeballing it, and you know, there's no real science to it. It's just a matter of, it's intuitive. So, and using the tool not just this way, but going backwards as well, I find is quite helpful, and it just makes it more versatile. So already that's like super beautiful with that yellow. And often what I do too is once I put the color on when it's wet, I'll just spray it with some water. And of course we're gonna get drips, but also it gives a beautiful, it just shows the layers of the paint. Boy, this is hard working with no table here. Just trying to get a paper top. Okay. So I can leave that. I can let it dry and paint over it, or I can smush it around while it's wet to get that, to sort of use that yellow as a glaze. So really, I mean, this is just still in the process of experimentation to see what's gonna come to life on this painting. So part of it maybe, or let's try it, take a little bit of that off and put it down here, more like a glaze just with the rag. So you're just bringing that color, you know, kind of mimicking, that's not the right word, echoing it into another area so that it sort of balances it out. I do like how the drips with the water kind of just like blossom. So I'm just gonna leave that for a minute and see what happens. So there's, you know, and you don't just want to put that like one place, you need it at least 2 places. So I'm kind of looking where I have similar color like that. I mean, I like this up here, but what would it look like? Like, that's the question just to ask yourself. What if, just say, what if I, right, just did this? Right, what if I just put this right over this blue? You know, it's about just not being afraid to, because with acrylic, it's so forgiving. Like if I don't like this, I can paint over it when it's dry. Now I'm just blending that in a little bit to this turquoise, because this turquoise is completely, mostly, well actually it's got white in it, but it was quite saturated. It wasn't mixed with another color. So I'm just trying to sort of glaze it a little bit with this, but we're getting this yellow. And this is another thing. Here's another thing you can do. Just make an area, you know, that's got a delineated And it just keeps going on and on. And I'm just gonna put a little blob there. Okay, I'm way too careful here now, so it's time to just, that's good to do something careful, but then come along beside it and do something messy. So it's all about getting this juxtaposition in, you know, having a contrast in many different ways on the piece, and it just brings it so to life. You know, and as you're doing this, you know, you're not gonna like a lot of this. Like, I guarantee you're not gonna like a lot of it. Just so you know, this is gonna happen. You're not gonna like it. So don't expect that you're just gonna start making a painting and you're gonna make the painting perfect right to the end. I mean, I guess that's possible, but it's highly unlikely. So rather look at it as, this is an experience. This is an opportunity to learn something about how you make art, which may not be how somebody else does it. And that's the most important thing, is how you do it. So I'm standing back as well, just to get a sort of overall look. You know, I'm liking how that's kind of going. So got a sort of a balance of the blue and the orangey yellow. Now, sometimes you don't want to do anything over top of wet paint because it'll just mix the paint together. But I know that some areas, and depending on how you put the paint on, you're not going to disrupt it too much. Like, I just went over that, but I'm just going to do a little bit of red. I'm not smooshing it, really. I'm just like placing it. And there's something about, now it's not going the way I planned. There's something about just intentionally putting a mark that changes the whole painting. That red changes this painting. So, but you don't necessarily you're either gonna intend to put a lot of red, I mean, I love red, or just in this case, just a little bit. Just, I mean, it's almost subconscious what you're seeing. And I don't like the shape of this that much, so for now I'm just gonna I don't know, I'm just moving this paint around. I know this is wet, but I'm going into it anyway, because that's another difference. There's just so many different things you can do, and then you can put it on, take it off, you know, moments after you put it on. When I do that, it splashes the paint even though you can't see that. When you get close up, it makes all these little micro dots of red, which looks pretty darn cool. And I just want somewhere, but very, very, almost inaudible. Just a little bit there. And that would be a good place to leave it. So, and that's where I should end this video for now, because as you can see, it takes quite a while. I haven't gotten into the editing part yet, but give me a thumbs up if you like it. And it's always exciting to know that you actually made a connection out there somewhere with another artist. And I'll see you next time. Bye.